Take three 300-year-old Chinese vases, a little bit like this one, Qing Dynasty,
I'll hold it
quite
carefully,
old.
Judy.
Yeah, and we're holding it very carefully, worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, which have been sitting harmlessly undisturbed on a museum windowsill for at least 40 years. There you are. I shall give it to you to put safely over there.
We've got a plenty for it.
Right. Now, add one 6-foot-tall, 13-stone regular museum visitor who has a Norman wisdom moment halfway down a flight of stairs. His shoelace comes undone and he trips, tumbles down the stairs, lands squarely on the vases, breaking them into hundreds of porcelain fragments. Result, one apoplectic museum director and one ex-museum visitor with a very sore head. And that visitor is Nicholas Flynn, and he's here now.
Hello.
Hello, Nicholas. You've had an awful lot of publicity out of this, haven't you?
I certainly have. I think I'm world famous by now.
I think you are.
Yes.
I mean, it was, despite all sorts of scurrilous accusations to the contrary in some newspapers, it was a complete accident, wasn't it?
Yes, I'd just like to say that there was no malicious intent, and I want to apologise to the museum and say that I am really saddened and truly sorry about the damage that's done. But of course, I haven't got hundreds of thousands of pounds to reimburse them for the cost of the vases.
Which they are going to piece together. We've got a picture of the moments after the spectacular fall. Let's have a look, guys. We'll show you what they look like in a minute. There we are.
That was you.
That's somebody who had a mobile phone camera and snapped that as you were sort of dazedly picking yourself up. Which stairs had you fallen down? The ones to the left of that picture or the ones to the right?
Where the curator is there, yes, on the right-hand side.
Is that the curator? In the...
Yes, I believe it is.
Could you imitate his expression?
Absolutely astounded. I think he was stuck for words, really. He just didn't know what to do.
So he came down the stairs to the right of where he was standing?
Yeah, he came towards me and I, like you say, was dazed and confused. I couldn't stand up properly. What I was astounded at was the millions of fragments of priceless porcelain, which I was just sort of slumped on top of.
Well, they're very old, baby, so they do tend to break into dust.
What,
very fragile, yes.
Well, you've had a letter from you, from the director of the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge, which is where all this happened, which says, I understand from my colleagues that you returned to the museum yesterday and you spoke to several people about what happened the day before. After giving all the circumstances my careful consideration, I'm writing to ask you not to visit the museum again in the near future. Museum Director, have you been back?
A man from BBC Cambridge Television, he mithered and pestered the director yesterday, and the director has now conceded and said, I'm most welcome to return to the museum whenever I like.
Oh, good.
Because you were a regular visitor, weren't you?
Oh, yes. I know the art historians in there. They have paintings by Joshua Taylor. They have a accredited painting of Rembrandt's.
Yes.
There's Egyptology. I mean, I did an adult education course and I used it as an adaptive tool so that I could pass my examinations by going in there and studying.
So it's all the more
drawing.
ironic, isn't it, that you're the one who destroys hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of old Chinese vases. When you fell down the stairs, did you realise, and with that sickening certainty, where you were headed? Did you think, yep?
Yes, well, I went to visit the museum. I went up the first landing staircase, found I was in the wrong part of the gallery altogether, decided to descend the staircase. I snagged my foot on my shoelace, missed a step, went hurtling towards one vase.
Like a bowling ball?
Well...
Towards the Skittles?
It was like a missile. It just flew, literally, smashed all the other vases completely into smithereens. Like a domino effect.
Like Skittles? You had an unlucky strike?
Well, they said if it would have been a Norman wisdom film, you couldn't have stage managed it any better.
And they've been there for 40 years. Well, listen, we were on to the Kidderminster Chinese Museum earlier today, and they sent us this. This is 300 years old. It's worth, we think, about £25,000. Wow. And they've said, they've trusted Judy and I to hold it. They said to give you some credibility and self-respect back. They're quite happy for you to hold it. Is that OK? You up for that?
That's fine, yeah. Well, that's this year's fees. This year's fees have gone out of the window, haven't they?
Would you please not visit the studio again?
It's a good job it came from the flea market around the corner. Actually, that happened once, didn't it? Do you remember that director? Of Granada Television all these years ago?
No.
He was a cameraman in those days, and we had a Ming vase. You remember in the studio on
Oh,
plinth?
yeah,
and
I
he pushed
do.
his camera
He
closer
did,
and
yeah.
closer, and the director said, "Don't. That's close enough. That's close enough." And he went straight into it and knocked it off. Anyway, now I know slightly how you felt, mate.
Well, the paramedics, when they arrived, I suppose my accident was a little bit more of a catastrophe than that. And they were very good, and they said that I was, you know, it was a miracle, really, that I walked away unscathed.
Well, hey, that's
Absolutely.
the good thing that comes out. And they are going to put the vases back together. Sadly, they will lose
a
some
full
of that value.
restoration, yes.
All right, mate, look, thanks a lot
Nicholas,
for coming
thank
in.
you very much.
Thank
Tread
Nice
carefully
to
in
meet you.
future.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Sit
Thanks.
tight. Now, a new reality TV show called Beauty and the Geek is probably the least politically correct programme on telly, but it's also one of the funniest in a long time. It starts tonight on E4. 7 beautiful women have to pair up with 7 self-confessed nerds, for reasons we'll explain later when they join us live here. But the result? It's TV gold.